Chris Cornell. Welcome everybody. How you feeling? Good? The sun not quite out, but at least it's not raining. Welcome to the Seattle Comic-Con. Yeah, exactly. Very excited, of course, as I'm sure you are, from Constantine. Let's bring up Matt Ryan. Sweating and disheveled, and he's so handsome. I don't know how they do it, these actors. Jesus. How you been, man?
Good, man. Good. Great day. Great day yesterday, great day today. Everybody in Tampa's been amazing, and yeah, I'll be sad to go this evening.
Yeah, where are you headed to, by the way?
I'm headed to New York City and then back to London.
Doing a show in New York, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a play in New York from October the 1st till January the 10th on Broadway.
Yeah, you're a very well-versed actor. Stage, television, screen. What are some of the differences, especially between the stage and something like Constantine on television?
Oh, I mean, I love to flip between the mediums whenever I can. You know, it's great to be able to do something like Constantine, which is such a fast-paced way of working on a network television show, and then I went straight from there to do an independent feature in the UK, and then straight from that into a play. I mean, it's a dream come true, really, as an actor.
Yeah.
You know, those different mediums, you know, the different skill sets you need, the different techniques, and yeah, it's a real joy to have to be able to get to do all different mediums.
Yeah, triple threat, as they say.
Is that what they say?
Yeah. Obviously, wanting to let everybody know, what is the status of Constantine?
At the moment, sadly to say, the show has not been picked up for a second season. I know, but you know, I have my fingers crossed. I think in today's climate of television, you never know when something can be resurrected, and so I kind of live in hope, really, that after I finish this play, that someone will kind of come out of the woodwork and put us on their network.
Isn't it amazing how the fans have such power these days? With social media and the interaction with the stars. Yeah, that it is possible to, you know, maybe, and it's almost an impossibility to have an executive in television go, maybe we made a mistake.
Well, I hope they do that. You know, I think that all the support that we received online with the hashtag Save Constantine, and it was unbelievable. And I think it's I don't think they'd ever really seen anything like that, you know. And then actors coming out of the woodwork to say they'd star on the shows, and it really was kind of down to you guys that they kept us around for so long, you know. And yeah, I just hope that someone else will come out.
Yeah.
Give us a show.
How faithful was the show to the comic books?
Well, I mean, it's always hard when you have to transpose something from a comic to the medium of television, especially network television. I think with this kind of show, the comics are really dark and gritty and earthy, the Hellblazer comics, and we all wanted to try to stay as true as possible to the DNA of those comics and the DNA of the character, and I think we got there kind of halfway through the season. I think when you start a TV show, the first few episodes are always you kind of finding your feet, the writers finding their feet, you know, all the components of the machine coming together to kind of make this one collective thing. And you know, sometimes that takes a bit of time, you know, from the pilot to episode 2 to 3, you know, then you can kind of see those mechanics working, and you can see everyone kind of trying to figure it out. And then by episode 4, A Feast of Friends, you know, you can, I think we really caught on to something, and we went on from there, you know.
I think networks, especially network television, because there are so many options out there now, they don't give a show enough time to really build the characters and the storyline, and it really does have to cultivate. Some of the most popular shows on television might have had a bad first season, but they were allowed to continue. Do you think that just is a thing of the past, really giving it time to cultivate the show?
I'm not sure, you know. I think it varies between network television and things that are on cable, like HBO and AMC, and then you've got Netflix now. I mean, the face of TV is changing so dramatically and so fast that you know, the studios and the networks are trying to kind of keep up with that change and the way that people watch TV. You know, like I like to binge watch. I love Game of Thrones, and I won't watch it week by week. I'll wait until it's all been aired and then sit down for 1 or 2 days and not leave my room, and just watch the whole thing all the way through.
Do you put the blindfold on and plug your ears when your friends go to talk, or just stay away from social media?
That's the hard thing.
It really is.
That's what I love about Netflix's kind of formula, really, is they release everything at once, so then you can just binge watch it all, And I think, like, I was one of the people who was late to come to Breaking Bad. And everyone was talking about it, and I was like, keep my ears closed. And then one day I watched, I think in a week, I watched all 5 seasons. And didn't surface for like a week. And then I came out of my bedroom like this. Oh, there's a whole world out there.
Yeah, well, when I was doing my radio show up in New York, the worst thing I could possibly do is say, hey, I just started watching such and such a show, because someone would then call up with a fake question, and you'd read it on the phone line, and then they call up and go, Walter White killed Jesse's girlfriend. You're like, you son of a... I was with just spoilers. They love it.
My brother's like that. My brother's like that with movies. He's always like, have you seen that film? I'm like, no. He's like, it's about a guy who does this, and this. I'm like, well, I don't need to see the movie now, do I?
Yeah,
thanks for showing. He's like, no, but it's really good. I'm like, yeah, but you've just told me the plot. And I was grab it and say, no, just tell me it's good and go watch it.
How do you see? Because a lot of people are very faithful to the comic books, and they know the stories before you actually air them or film them for television. And you can't just jump into the middle. So I wonder, how do the people handle having to go through stuff they know already and be excited about that?
I don't know, it's an interesting one. I think what's great about the show, transposing the comics to a show, is you've got all this amazing source material. You've got 300 issues of the Hellblazer comics. I think there's like 85 issues of the New 52, and now they've just rebooted again, I hear. I haven't read any of them for the new Hellblazer, And I mean, you've got all that source material to draw from, and I just imagine the writer's room of all these writers just going, oh my God, they've got all this amazing material. Each week I'd be sitting there going, I wonder what story they're going to do this time. And originally what we had intended to do was, you have to make it your own. You're transposing it to TV, so you have to make it your own, but then also try and stay true to the comics. And, we tried to start off pretty much where the comics start off, a feast of friends, and then, as we were going along, we were doing our own original stories, but then bleeding in, characters from the comic books, and then also our own characters as well, like Manny, for instance. He was a creation, and also adapting things slightly, like what we did with Chaz by, making him American and giving him, a power, so to speak, and I think those are the things that you can do on television, and that's what's great about it, and when it works, yeah.
Do you get any emails or tweets that say, hey, why'd you do that? You're veering off from the faithfulness of the comic?
To be honest with you, I mean, the support for me and the show online has just been nothing but brilliant. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I think that everyone was really shocked. I think the whole industry was kind of shocked at the support for the show when the hashtag Save Constantine started getting going. And I think that it made them kind of re-look at the way they kind of take in the ratings and stuff. So I think that whatever the outcome of this show, which is sadly it's not continuing, I think that it's been good for the industry as a whole, because they realise that actually social networking, social media, that is such a huge tool, and they need to take to look at that in terms of how they gather information about who's watching shows.
It is kind of a tribute to the writers. We'll take a few questions in a couple of minutes, that's for sure. People have a lot to ask. But it is kind of a tribute to the writers to be able to veer away from the comic book, the literal sense of the comic book, but keep those characters and everything faithful to it so as not to upset people that are so into it and know every little detail. How was the writing staff on
they were fantastic. They were so cool. cool, and it was so great to work with. It really was a collaboration with all the producers and the actors and the writers, and you know, and the studio were fantastic. And in all fairness to the network, you know, they tried to give us every chance we could, you know, by re-releasing things online again. And you know, it's just one of those things that it didn't work in the time slot that it was allotted, and they tried to give it every chance they could, but it just didn't work for them. You know, and we then hoped that it would work somewhere else, but you know, with the time frame and all those complications and things, sadly it didn't, you know. But the writing staff were just great. I mean, everybody, and I know people always say like everybody on this job was amazing, but I've got to say, like, everybody was unbelievable on this show. Like, I had such a good time with everyone, and you know, you've got to have a laugh as well. Like, I was in every day. Obviously, because you know it's called Constantine. And, I was in every day, and you know you've got to have fun. I think when you're doing something, especially like some of the darker stuff with John. You know, you've got to, you know, in between takes, you've got to find a lightness to what you're doing, and the crew and everyone just really got on well and had a laugh and stuff. You know, in between, so that it wasn't kind of too draining. You know,
Was some of the darker moments. Because it's difficult, especially on network television, to get some of those things past. Did you have to imply some of that and cleverly or kind of incorporate that into the show without being so graphic?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, I think with the character you have to start off, you know, there's obviously all the amazing Hellblazer fans who know and have lived with this character for years and years and years. So you want to do justice to them and to all the amazing writers who have written him and all the amazing artists who have drawn him. You want to kind of do that justice, and then you want to kind of add a little splash of yourself as well. And you know, it was quite intimidating at first. You know, such an iconic character, and this thing kind of rested on my shoulders. And it's like, well, if I get this wrong, it's really going to go wrong. You know, and I'm going to feel the wrath of all these hardcore fans of these amazing comics. And at first it was kind of a little bit intimidating, and then you kind of throw caution to the wind and jump in and kind of, you know, just do your thing and hope for the best. And luckily, I mean, the reaction from you guys has been fantastic. So I'm just feel lucky really that I've kind of hopefully done the part a little bit of justice, you know.
And I heard you would carry around a comic book.
Yes, yeah, I think it was like my Bible. You know, it's you're living this thing 24/7 and you know, 7 days a week. For I think it was 7 months we shot for, and sometimes you're just like, oh, who is he at this moment? I don't know what's going on, and then I would just pull out the comic, and you know, what's great about comics is they're so visual that you see a panel and you're like, there he is, I get it, you know. And the physicality of Constantine in the comics was something that I kind of tried to draw on a lot, and it was something that inspired me, that I could just look at something and it would kind of, you know, affect me, and I'd be able to use something from that, you know.
You didn't get somebody around on the set that said like, we're working our asses off and he's reading comics.
No. Well, it's funny because all of, you know, it's so cool, you know, the stuff you get to do as an actor, you know. You know, my research was to try and read 300 comics. And I mean, that's pretty cool, isn't it, as a job, you know. It's like, I'm sitting there, my mate's going like, you're not working. I'm like, this is work, man. You know? It's like, it's great. And the same when I did Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Yeah.
My research for that was to play the game before. So they sent me the game, and I was sitting around for days, I think a couple of weeks, playing video games, and all my mates were like, what are you doing? You're sitting around, you know, you should be out there, you know. And I was like, no, I'm working, this is work, I'm getting paid to do this. Like, this is my job.
Now, Assassin's Creed wasn't just voice work for you, it was all the mocap stuff.
Yeah.
Like you had to wear the suit and the sensors and the camera in front of your face.
It's unbelievable, like, how the technology has advanced, and I think while we were doing it, it was advancing as we were doing it. You know, it was shot close to 2.5 hours worth of footage in the suit with a camera in front of your face. So it's like shooting a movie, really, you know, in a green room with 80 cameras all around you, and it's kind of a cross between doing film and theatre. Because you're actually in the room doing it live, but then, you know, they choose the angle afterwards. So it's kind of it was a completely new medium for me, but a fantastic one, and I loved it. But you know, you turn up on the first day, and it took me about a week to kind of get used to the process, because you know, you put this lycra suit on, which isn't very flattering at all, and you know, you got all these dots, a camera in front of your face, and I felt like a dog in a muzzle. You know, I was trying to get this camera away from my face all the time, and then after a week, I kind of got into it. You know, into what the technique was, which is a completely different medium, and it's just amazing. Like, I think a lot more actors are doing video games now because it is a new, refreshing medium, you know, and kind of, you know, the way that Andy Serkis has done Gollum and King Kong, you know, all those things are done in the same way, and it's a really kind of interesting new medium to work in.
It's amazing some of the virtual work that's done in movies. I guess the new Terminator coming out, what they did with the young Arnold, completely digital. They just digitized his face, and we'd always been looking for that over the years, like when will the actor not become obsolete, but you know, be able to go back in time and instead of just using makeup like
great.
that. It is an amazing
It's funny, I'm really looking forward to the new Star Wars, as I'm sure you guys are. And I'm really excited. And for the fact as well that J.J. Abrams is kind of trying to give it from what I've read, a retro feel, and trying to do it with prosthetics, so it's not going to be completely digitized like the first three movies were. That you know, he's actually trying to bring it back into the real world with a combination of both things, and I think that's the way to go. So you know, all those movies you watched when CGI first came out, then now you watch them and you're like, wow, it's really bad, you know. And I think for something to stand the test of time, I think that it really does have to go the way that he's doing it. So I'm so stoked about that. When I saw the trailer, I was like. Just to see again, you know, the Millennium Falcon and the X-Wings over the water, like it looks. And JJ did such a good job, I believe, especially with the first reboot of Star Trek that he did, taking such iconic characters and taking that risk that people are just not going to buy it, and doing it so well. I have. Again, and we have all been bamboozled with Star Wars over the years. We've gone, oh no, you know. I'm very excited about this myself. And watching some of the documentaries on the first one, where they literally were throwing fireworks onto these little sets. And I think you're right, a combination of CGI and modeling and aesthetics. It worked so well in the Lord of the Rings series too, where they used both. It's so exciting, isn't it? The new technologies that are coming out. But you're also a stage actor, which is, you know, they could put some trapdoors in and mechanics to bring sets up, but it's you on that stage with people in front of you. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I really love, like, my first love is stage, you know. That's kind of where I came from in my training and my first couple of jobs. And the thing is you're much more in control, you know. Sometimes it's like the cigarettes, for instance, in Constantine. Like, I was smoking throughout the whole season, but I learned later on that they were cutting around me when the cigarette wasn't in my mouth. So then towards the end of the season, I just started leaving the cigarette in my mouth. I was just like, they can't cut around me with the cigarettes in my mouth, you know? And then it looks as if they've kind of let me smoke, but actually they let me smoke from the beginning. It's just that then in the cut, you know, sometimes it wouldn't make the cut. So you know, you learn little things like that as well, of how to get things in there. And I was just leaving the cigarette in. A few directors would say to me like, I don't think you're supposed to. I was like, I've got it. It's fine. Believe me, I've got it. Just roll the camera. I got this one.
There's so much, standards and practice, you know, obviously there's language issues and content issues that you have to adhere to, but it seems like this political correctness has kind of injected itself into television, where things like, you know, they don't want to show a character smoking when obviously the character smokes. It's part of the character. It's not telling people they should smoke, it's not glamorizing it, but, you know, it should be left in.
Well, in all fairness to NBC, I think that something got out really early on that he wouldn't be smoking. And then everyone went crazy about that. And it wasn't true. They never said that I couldn't smoke. And indeed, you know, it is a fundamental part of the character. They knew that, we knew that. There are certain rules rules you have to abide by of, you know, maybe they can't see you taking, inhaling on screen or what have you, but, you know, they were up for it, in all fairness to them, you know, and they were behind that 100%, but, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's funny, the thing is, what I love about theatre is, we'll go back to what I was saying, I completely went off the question there, sorry about that, but, is that, you know, you're in control of your performance with the audience. You know, you are your own editor, so to speak, whereas with TV or film, you might think that some of your best takes, you're not in control of choosing them, and maybe you shouldn't be, you know, it's like, sometimes you shouldn't be, but, you know, with theatre, you know, it's you and an audience, and there's a real dialogue and a real energy exchange that happens in a theatre, and the buzz you get off that, of a live performance, you can't beat it. But also, you know, I did 3 years of stage work with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and after that I was like, get me out of stage work, I want to do some TV or some film, you know? So, you know, it's great to be able to mix up the mediums, because you get tired of one after a while, I feel.
I would think it would be frightening that you don't have that cut. Do it again on a stage.
I don't know, I don't know, because of the way I was trained, well, you should learn all your lines, you know? You know.
That would help, sure.
But no, I mean, that is the luxury of TV and film is, you know, you're able to go back and do it again and make choices so that you can hopefully give the director, you know, a performance that he wants. And, you know, that's also the great thing about stage work. You go out and sometimes you miss a beat or you mess up your lines. I mean, you try improvising Shakespeare. That's pretty difficult, you know. I think one time in the last play I was doing Henry V with Jude Law in London, and I had this really bit of an aggressive speech to say. And it was the end of the week, we'd done 8 shows, it was the last show, and you start to go, oh my God, have I said this today already? And you know, you start to go a bit stir crazy, you know. And I had to say something really fast and really aggressive, and it just didn't come out, and I ended up just going like, and like I stopped, and everybody looked at me, and I just put my head down. I was like, I can't look at anyone, I'm going to laugh. You know, it's like, you know, hopefully it was Shakespeare, and people just thought, oh, that's an interesting piece of writing. You know, I didn't really understand that. You know, maybe I got away with it, but you know, things like that happen in live theatre. You know, or mobile phones go off. You know, things like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that with the advent of course, so much technology out there. Everyone's loaded down with it. What do you do in that? I've been lucky that it hasn't really happened that much to me, but it can be frustrating, you know. Especially with Shakespeare, it's like really takes you out of the moment.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you're trying to create an atmosphere and a world for the audience, and I think that, you know, in the middle it's just like, oh, this moment when I'm about to kiss her, and it's the best moment of the play, it's just broken. But you know, that's the thing about live theatre, and that's what's exciting about it. You know, you go out there every night, and you don't know what's going to happen.
As a new actor, young actor on stage, have you learned how to handle those mistakes and improvise a little on there a little better?
I think you do get used to it a little more, and you become more comfortable with it. But I think that the very nature of it throws up things that, you know, you might not have ever dealt with before. So you're kind of out there on your own, you know, well, with the rest of the cast and improvising. And it can be pretty terrifying.
And back to Constantine, they had you hanging up by some wires a couple of times?
They did, yeah. I mean, I said once in an interview that I think that the writers and David Goyer and Daniel Cerrone sit in the writers' room and just say, what can we do to Matt Ryan this week? Because, you know, they'd have me hanging up, they'd have me covered in blood, you know, and going through all these different things, putting me through the ringer. But it was always really good fun, and you know, it was for the story, obviously. But yeah, we did some really cool stuff, man. I mean, my most interesting day was when I was covered completely in blood. And I did the chicken dance, I called it, when I was doing that dance, which was really funny. But it was like a full day in, you know, being covered in blood. And that stuff is like really sticky. You know, if it's not wet, it becomes really sticky. And I'm covered in the stuff, you know, so I'm walking around, I've got like this little G-string on, and like a pair of boots, and I'm walking around, you know, I can't sit down because I'm sick into everything, and by the end of the day I was like, I'm sitting down. So they put a few towels down so that I could sit down, and then I go to get up, and it's just like, oh, it was horrible. I had the whole makeup department kind of like trying to pull this thing back, and it was like being waxed. You know, I was like, I hate this Joe. But loving it, obviously, really. And then I had to have people following me around with spritz cans, because once the stuff dried, it got really sticky, and they would have to keep me wet. So all day I was just being sprayed by this mist to try and like keep me wet, so I wouldn't stick to things. And that was a very interesting day.
Now, did you take away anything from the Keanu version of the film of the groans?
You know what, to be honest, when I saw the movie, and before I'd been introduced to the Hellblazer comics, and I got to say I really liked it as a movie. You know, it wasn't my favorite of films, but you know, I did like it, and then once the part came along and I read the comics, I thought, okay, you know, they've obviously taken some liberties with the character, and you know, he's American and he's not blonde and he doesn't wear the trench coat, and you know, and there were certain kind of bits of the character I thought that were, you know, maybe not as portrayed as much as we wanted to portray him, like his humor, for instance. And but you know, as a standalone kind of movie, I did like it. And but our main objective was to try and be as true to that, you know, the DNA of the original Hellblazer comics, which is a difficult thing. I mean, you know, you've got to invite a new audience in as well as the audience that you already have from the comics. You know, so it's a fine balance to strike, I think, so that people will like the character, even though he's probably one of the biggest a-holes in literature. You know, you've got to like him as well, you know, and I think that you know, we couldn't start out with him being too much of a jerk, because people wouldn't like him, and new audiences, new viewers wouldn't be attracted to him. So, you know, we had to build to get there, you know.
Well, yeah, if a character, obviously an ensemble cast, you know, you have to build each character and their relationships. If Breaking Bad wasn't given a chance, it would have been a horrible story of a sick science teacher, and that's pretty much it. That would have been, you know, the character has to be allowed to build,
yeah, exactly,
and kind of be recognized by the audience, and it gives you that cool backstory thing. But as far as some of the fans of the comic books, like I said, they know the whole story, so they might want you to jump in immediately.
Yeah, that's the thing as well, is what's your entry point with him?
Right.
Know? It's like, well, how do you tackle him? How do you give those fans a part of him which they can see and they approve of and they like, and then also, you know, a part of the character that new viewers are going to like as well, and that's kind of a tricky balance.
Let's take some questions. If you want to line up by the microphone in an orderly fashion, as they used to say in school. I remember that one. Orderly fashion. No running, no horseplay, shenanigans. Yes, miss.
You said you watched Game of Thrones, correct?
Yes.
I was wondering if you had to be any Game of Thrones character, who would you be and why?
Ah, interesting. Well, I don't want to spoil Game of Thrones for anyone that hasn't watched it yet, but I was so sad at the end of this season when what happened, you know. No, that's like my favorite character, you know. It's like I thought that he was going to be the one to kind of rise to greatness at the end of the season. So I would say him, but then you know, there's so many cool characters in it. Maybe Khaleesi.
That's actually one of my favorite characters.
No, you know, not to be a woman, but like just the fact that she's, you know, father of dragons.
That should be a thing. Constantine, father of dragons.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Big fan of Constantine. I actually have his very first appearance in the comic books. Really happy when you got cast as Constantine, have all 300 issues. Very mad as hell at DC. They ended it and watered it down in New 52. And I'll state that. But you kind of somewhat answered it, but what was some of the best stunts that you were able to perform and some of the coolest stunts that your coworkers did as well?
Well, obviously, you know, the when I was possessed, that was kind of one of the toughest days, but one of the most satisfying as well. And doing all that rope work when I was lifted up, that was pretty cool. The fight, some of the fights, you know, you get to do. There was the one fight in episode, the coal mining episode, and there's a tiny little fight in there where I like hit a guy, turn, hit another guy, and then get knocked out. Or get knocked down. And there was I had actually built in there that Constantine hit one guy, turned around, grabbed the other one and bit him. Because I just thought it's dirty, you know, like, and that's the way Constantine, he's a dirty fighter, you know, but they didn't keep it in, unfortunately. But all that was pretty cool. Let me think what else was cool. Like in the pilot, shooting the pilot, you know, all the stuff with the car and stuff, like that was really cool. We were on this big spinning rig, and they would like literally like spin us around as if we'd have the impact, you know, and all that stuff was pretty cool. Yeah, all of the stunt work, I tried to do as much of it as possible. I had a great stunt double, and it was crazy how much he looked like me. Like, you could have literally just left him to do it all. You know, when you're on his face, if you were on his face, the side of his face, you wouldn't recognize that it wasn't me. But I always wanted to do as much as possible, you know, because I love doing that stuff.
Sweet, thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
So I was wondering that, like, what attracted you to being Constantine? Because, you know, that is different than, like, say, Batman or Superman or any of those guys. And then, like, also there's rumors that, you know, they're trying to put Constantine on Arrow. And so, like, have you heard anything about that? Is there any, like, would you be interested in doing that?
Well, I've heard lots of rumours. I've been hearing lots and lots of rumours this weekend. It is something that I'd be interested in. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what they would write for those two characters, kind of coming together. But as you said, you know, at the moment they're just rumours, as far as I know. And to answer your other question, I think the main difference between Constantine and all other superheroes is he's just a normal bloke. And that's what I loved about him. He's human, and he's flawed, and he really is probably one of the best anti-heroes, you know. You know, he's the type of guy that will, you know, he'll try and con you. If he can't con you, then, you know, he'll try and kick you in the balls. And then, you know, he'll put up his two fingers and run away. You know, it's like, and that's what I always loved about him, is the human element of it, you know, and that's one of the major things that attracted me to play him.
Thank you.
Great. Oh, there he is. He's a person.
Hello.
Hey.
All right, so I ask everyone this. Everyone. How do you think Constantine starts his morning?
With a cigarette and a whiskey.
That's a good answer.
Hi, I'm so close to this. If you could be any other comic book character, hero, villain, if you could play them on any medium, who would you choose and why?
Yeah, I've been asked this question before, and it's changed a few times. Like, I was always a fan of Batman and Superman growing up, and I'm so excited about the new Batman vs Superman movie. I think it's going to be great. But at this moment, right now, I'd have to say Batman. But it was Superman about a month ago. The thing is, Superman can fly. I mean, that's cool, you know. Like, but Batman is a real guy. You know, he's a human. He's flawed. So at the moment, I'm kind of liking that side of things.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Get on the stoves over here.
Out of all the shows that you played, which one was your favorite?
Out of all the episodes, my favorite, I've got two actually. It was The Saint of Last Resorts Part 2, which is when I get possessed by the demon, and A Feast of Friends, which I think was episode 4. And the reason for A Feast of Friends is because my very good friend and roommate John O'Neill played Gary Lester, which was great. We got a lot of our relationship in that for free, you know, and it was so funny because I hadn't seen him for ages, and then, you know, I heard he was up for the part, and I was so excited about it, and I hadn't seen him for ages, and then he had turned up in Atlanta, and I'd said hello, and very quickly, because I was being rushed off one way where he was being rushed off the other, and the first scene we shot was him in the bed at the end, when the demon's trapped in him. So I'm kind of like rushing around, and I get down and I sit down, and they're like, roll, action, and he's screaming, and I'm like, you know, standing there, and they say cut. Okay, we're going to turn the cameras around and put them in different places, and we both look at each other and go, hey man, how you doing? It was the first time I'd spoken to him properly, and we just sat there and just like had a chat while he was bleeding in his face. It's really weird. It was like, how did we get here? It was one of my favorite moments of the whole shoot, you know. Yeah.
I think we have, unfortunately, time for one more question.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
time really flies. Very, very interesting and compelling stories that you tell, and time just whizzes right by. So, Miss?
Yes. Touching slightly on the quote-unquote watering down issue, I actually did enjoy his run in New 52. It was still keeping to the essence of the character and his flawed humanity and not wanting to be a hero, but still not the whole grittiness of it. But I have a lot of hope for the new Constantine the Hellblazer series that they just started. My actual question is, if when you want to get back to stage, is there any role you would especially like to play in the future?
Interesting. Well, I'm going to be doing a great role called Laurent in a play which is based on a French novel by Émile Zola. I'm going to be doing that on Broadway until January the 10th. But I would really like to. I'd really like to have a go at Hamlet. I think that would be really, really cool.
It's my favorite Shakespeare.
It is,
I
yeah,
would be
it's one of mine.
so excited to have you.
Yeah, and I hope that one day I'm lucky enough to play it. It's an amazing role.
You would do great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much, Matt Ryan. Fantastic. Brilliant. Love it. Thanks so much for coming. And in orderly fashion, leave the room. Thanks so much, everybody.